Welcome to another chapter of the Tourlife Diaries, a collection of stories chronicling the adventures and misadventures of the Cucamonga kids as they navigate the unpredictable world of rock and roll. I'm Thomas Quiet, your guide through these tales of music, mayhem, and everything in between. Our next installment, Desert of Discord, takes us deep into the heart of northern Arizona, where a seemingly routine stop turned into a night of chaos and danger. It was July 5th, the day after the 4th of July, and we found ourselves on native land, preparing for what we hoped would be a night of cultural exchange and rock-fueled energy. This story captures the raw, unfiltered reality of life on the road. It's a tale of unforeseen challenges, the importance of respect and understanding, and the bonds that hold a band together in the face of adversity. As you read on, you'll experience the intensity of that night, the fear, the adrenaline, and the lessons we learned along the way. Join me as we delve into Desert of Discord, a story that epitomizes the highs and lows of touring life. It's a testament to the unpredictability of the journey, the resilience of the band, and the critical role of mutual respect in every place we visit. So buckle up and get ready for a wild ride with the Cucamonga kids. The road ahead is uncertain, but with determination and unity, there's no challenge we can't overcome.
The Cucamonga kids, they hit the road. A series of short stories unfold. Tour life in their veins. Rock and roll is the game with punk rock anthems. They set the stage aflame. In a busted up van, they ride through the night. Sleeping on floors, it's a hell of a sight. From city to city, they leave their mark. Chasing dreams in the glow of neon arc. The Cucamonga kids, they won't back down. Through the chaos and madness, they wear their crown. Living fast, playing loud, they're on a mission. This is the soundtrack of their punk rock vision.
As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the arid landscape of northern Arizona, I sat in our tour van, scribbling away in this diary. The events of the day were still fresh in my mind, and I needed to get them down before the adrenaline rush faded. This was supposed to be just another stop on our tour, but it turned into something far more chaotic and ultimately unforgettable. We were wrapping up our current leg of the tour before our summer break. The Cucamonga kids had the opportunity to join Heaven's Rejects as their opening act for the final week of their international tour across the Southwest. It was July 5th, the day after the 4th of July, and we found ourselves on native land deep in northern Arizona. Everyone on the tour was particularly excited about this stop. None of us had ever played on a reservation before, and we had heard great stories about how the native community was incredibly responsive to rock music. There was a certain mystique to it all, a sense of adventure that added a special edge to the gig. We imagined a night filled with raw energy, a cultural exchange through the universal language of music. However, as the day unfolded, we discovered we had been brought here under false pretenses. The drummer of Heaven's Rejects had been flirting with a native girl and was looking for an excuse to get laid. He convinced his bandmates to book a show here solely for that purpose. We were all a bit disgusted when we found out, but by then we were already committed. As the sun set, we set up our gear and started playing our set. The crowd was decent-sized, and they seemed genuinely interested in the music. We gave it our all, feeding off their energy, and for a while, It felt like the rock and roll dream. When we came off stage, sweaty and exhilarated, things took a turn. The girl who had caught the drummer's eye was there, flirting with every member of both bands. Her interest in the drummer was evident, but her behavior was causing tension. Her boyfriend or love interest, fumbling drunk and visibly pissed off, stormed over and looked ready to start a fight. The situation was tense, but the only thing that stopped it from escalating further was the fact that Heaven's Rejects were next up to play. The drummer had to go on stage. Heaven's Rejects started their set, but it quickly turned sour. The drummer, clearly still riled up, grabbed the mic and began speaking openly to the crowd, spewing venom. "Fuck those white boys over there," he shouted, gesturing towards us. "They're here to fuck our women. That's the only reason they're here. Fuck that band. Fuck Heaven's Rejects. Fuck the Cucamonga kids. They're here to screw our women." The words hung in the air, heavy and divisive. The crowd, initially there for the music, started turning hostile. The promoter, sensing the brewing storm, rushed on stage and cut the power, kicking the drummer and his band off the stage. But the damage was done. The crowd, feeling betrayed and incensed by the drummer's outburst, began to turn on us. In a matter of minutes, the atmosphere shifted from festive to dangerous. The locals, fueled by anger and feeling disrespected, started to surround us. It became clear that we needed to get out of there, and fast. We hurriedly packed up our gear, hopped into our van, and sped out of the venue, hearts pounding and minds racing. As we barreled down the road, my phone rang. It was the lead singer of Heaven's Rejects. "We're right behind you," he said, his voice tense. "Just keep driving. Get us out of here." I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw their van tailing us closely with a group of angry locals not far behind. "Hang on," I muttered, shifting the van into a higher gear and bolting down the narrow road. The chase was surreal. It felt like we were in an old Western movie, but instead of horses and guns, it was vans and angry fists. The road was bumpy and the dust kicked up around us, but we didn't dare slow down. I navigated through the winding roads, the weight of our gear making every turn precarious. As we drove down 55th, I could see the headlights of Heaven's Rejects van bobbing up and down in the rearview mirror. The crowd of natives chasing us grew smaller and smaller until they were just specks in the distance. Eventually, the landscape around us changed, the buildings giving way to open desert, and the immediate danger passed. We kept driving for a good hour before we finally felt it was safe to pull over. We stopped at a rundown gas station on the outskirts of some small town. Both bands piled out of the vans, breathing heavily and trying to process what had just happened. "That was insane," I said, wiping the sweat from my brow. The lead singer of Heaven's Rejects nodded, still looking shaken. "Yeah, man. I had no idea it would turn out like that. I'm sorry," he muttered, looking genuinely remorseful. Mitzi, our manager, who had been silent during the whole ordeal, finally spoke up. "We need to be more careful about where we book gigs," she said, her voice steady but firm. "We can't afford to have this kind of thing happen again." We all nodded in agreement. The reality of touring, especially in unfamiliar places, had never been more apparent. This wasn't just about playing music. It was about understanding and respecting the communities we were entering. After refueling and grabbing some much-needed snacks, we got back on the road. The adrenaline rush had worn off, leaving a heavy fatigue in its place. We drove in relative silence, each of us lost in our thoughts. Reflecting on the events of the day, I couldn't help but feel a mix of anger and sadness. Anger at the drummer for his recklessness and disrespect, and sadness for the way things had spiraled out of control. This wasn't what music was supposed to be about. Music was supposed to bring people together, not tear them apart. As we continued driving through the night, I thought about the future. We needed to be smarter to ensure that every gig we played respected the local culture and community. It was a lesson learned the hard way, but one that would shape our approach going forward. By the time we reached our next destination, the sun was beginning to rise. We found a cheap motel and checked in, exhausted but relieved to have made it through the night. As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I knew that today's events would stay with me for a long time. Tourlife was a roller coaster of highs and lows, and this was definitely one of the lowest points. But even in the chaos, there was a silver lining. We had each other, and together we could navigate through the toughest situations. With Mitzi's guidance and our shared determination, we would continue to push forward. As I closed my eyes, I felt a sense of resolve. The road ahead was uncertain, but we would face it head on. We were the Cucamonga kids, and no matter what came our way, we would keep playing, keep growing, and keep moving forward.